In this video, I'll explain how the clutch pedal quadrant works and how to check it for proper operation. Right now I'm looking up under the dashboard and you have a complete view of the clutch pedal linkage, which consists of the clutch pedal lever, the clutch pedal shaft, the clutch pedal shaft lever, and at the very end, the clutch pedal quadrant assembly. Now if we look a little more closely at the clutch shaft lever, you can see it's rigidly attached to the clutch shaft. It's actually welded, as you can see here. The quadrant, however, just rides on the shaft, and it's only held in place by this R-clip. But it has two constraints that keep it from rotating freely: a torsion spring between the quadrant and the clutch shaft lever, and a spring-loaded pole, which is attached to the clutch shaft lever and engages the teeth of the quadrant. And as you can see, when the clutch pedal is in its normal up position, the pole is just touching the up stop, and its teeth are firmly engaged with the teeth of the quadrant. In fact, whenever you step on the clutch, the pole will always be engaged with the quadrant. So basically, the quadrant behaves as if it were solidly connected to the clutch lever shaft, and the pole is what makes that solid connection. There are only two ways the pole will ever disengage from the quadrant. The first way occurs automatically. As the friction plate of the clutch wears down, the fingers of the diaphragm move out, away from the flywheel, and exert force on the throwout bearing, which increases the tension of the clutch cable. The excess tension in the clutch cable causes the pedal to raise higher. When that happens, the pole bears against the upstop and releases from the quadrant. At that instant, the quadrant can rotate independently of the clutch lever shaft. But it can't rotate freely because it is now under the tension of the torsion spring, which has one end anchored in the clutch shaft lever and the other end anchored in the quadrant. At that point, the tension in the cable is now reduced to the tension of the torsion spring, and the teeth of the pole re-engage with the teeth of the quadrant, because the torsion spring doesn't have enough force to release the pole from the quadrant. So basically, whenever the pole disengages due to excess static tension in the clutch cable, the tension of the cable is reset to the tension of the torsion spring, and the pole re-engages automatically. The beautiful thing about all this is the tension the torsion spring imparts upon the clutch release cable is the factory specified clutch throwout bearing preload. Unlike older cars, there's not supposed to be an air gap between the throwout bearing and the clutch diaphragm fingers. The throwout bearing is designed to be in constant contact with the clutch diaphragm fingers. The advantage to that is you get smoother shifting, less wear on the diaphragm fingers, and you avoid the associated wear on the bearing from the instantaneous jolt from 0 RPMs to engine RPMs every time you shift. The drawback to this setup is the throwout bearing is always spinning from the moment you start the car till the moment you turn it off. And that's gotta cause the bearing to wear out faster. But who says the throwout bearing has to last forever? It only has to last as long as the clutch. And the clutch friction disc almost always wears out before the throwout bearing. When you replace the clutch, you always install a new throwout bearing, so it's really not an issue. And there you have it. That's how the quadrant is designed, and how it works automatically to maintain the factory specified preload on the throwout bearing. The only other way the pole will ever release from the quadrant is if you activate it manually. The way to do that is simply by pulling up on the clutch pedal. When you pull up on the pedal, the upstop will push the pole away from the quadrant, and then the whole process I described previously will occur. Now that you completely understand how the clutch pedal quadrant works, you can go ahead and check it for proper operation. To do that, you need to get under the dashboard and pull up on the clutch pedal until the pole fully releases from the quadrant. Then, while holding the pedal up so the pole remains disengaged from the quadrant, reach up with the other hand and rotate the quadrant. You should be able to rotate the quadrant independently of the clutch shaft lever, but under the tension of the torsion spring. Once you've confirmed the quadrant is working properly, release the pedal and ensure the pole has fully re-engaged. If everything checks out, you know the quadrant is working properly, and the clutch linkage is now adjusted to factory specs.